Hey everyone, Mitch coming from the Commander Score Studio. Welcome to the show. So, the last day of spoiler season, at least for this week, and at least for me, I guess I should say. There are some spoilers that come over the weekend, but not too many. And yeah, I don't really plan on working over the weekend, because even I need a break. Regardless, things are already starting off with a bang this morning. Yeah, this one got me up and out of bed. Here we go. Lotho Corrupt. Is that Shirriff or Shirriff? I don't know. Let me know in the comments below why in the world it's spelled that way. A 2/1 halfling rogue that costs white black and says whenever a player casts their second spell each turn, you lose 1 life and create a treasure token. Now, we have seen a somewhat similar card to this one in the past. That being said, we'll talk about that one here in a bit. But this one actually is a commander, which is really cool. And there is a slight difference, I should say. This one counts every single player, including yourself. So, if you're casting 2 spells on your turn or an opponent's turn, you are going to be taking advantage of this by making a treasure for 1 life. And 1 life is not that big of a deal. Yes, that can add up throughout the game. And yes, this can be quite hilarious in that it can actually take you out. Like, let's say you're at 2 life and you've got 2 opponents who are up against you. And they're like, hey, can you cast 2 spells this turn? Yeah. Oh, I can too. Cool. Let's take out that player because they can just make you lose life. And there's really nothing you can do about it unless you've got an in-speed way to actually gain life. So yeah, there are some interesting things like a kind of push and pull with this commander. 1 life is not a lot. Treasure tokens can be incredibly powerful. And yeah, this can generate you a lot throughout the game. Again, with just 1 trip around the table, I mean, I guess the potential technically is, 16 treasures with 1 trip around the table? Because technically every single player could hypothetically cast 2 spells on every single turn because instant speed and whatnot. Highly unlikely. But yeah, I mean, at the very least, you're going to get probably multiple treasure with every trip around the table because if you're doing 2, maybe you've got some instant speed effects for opponent's turns as well. Maybe on other players' turns, they're casting multiple spells. That happens in games of Commander. I mean, just if you kind of want to just see the potential for this commander, just like take like a notepad off to the side or just like your iPhone or Android or whatever, and just kind of mark and tally every single time on a turn that 2 spells are cast by a single player. So keep track of that and just see what happens. Yeah, these kind of like second spell each turn effects are pretty powerful. And again, being able to make a massive amount of treasures for a commander that does not cost a lot. And again, if this commander is dealt with, you probably have treasures to get it back out. So yeah, you can do some really big, exciting, big mana things with this. You can do some life, shenanigans with this as well that we'll talk about here in a bit. Of course, you are in Orzhov. There's plenty of ways to actually gain life, but there's other shenanigans to be had as well. There's also ways to take advantage of sacrificing artifacts like your treasures. And yeah, there's a lot of cool things that you can do with this one. I can see this one seeing a good amount of play in the 99 of certain decks. And also, yeah, just a great card as a commander and one that can lead a very interesting deck and an interesting strategy. So, with that being said, well, let's talk about the budget buys and the price of your picks on this episode. The budget buys are cards that are within my budget, less than $1. Price of your picks outside of my budget, more than $1. Get it? So, and also all these cards are going to be in a link in the description below. So if you are interested in this commander, make sure you check out that card list link. Because again, when an exciting new commander like this one is spoiled, sometimes cards that work well with it tend to go up in price. Now, with all that said, let's jump into those budget buys. Starting off with, well, a very low to the ground budget buy. A 1/1 for 1 Disciple of the Vault. It's a human cleric that says, whenever an artifact is put into a graveyard from play, you may have target opponent lose 1 life. This one is interesting in the way that it's worded. Hey, any artifact, any graveyard, 1 life to target opponent. Basically, again, this counts anyone's artifacts, not just your own. And yes, to clarify, tokens do technically hit the graveyard. They disappear right when that happens, but they do technically hit the graveyard. So your treasure tokens, when you are cracking them, hey, they're going to your graveyard. They hit the graveyard, they're gone. So they trigger this. So essentially, every single time you sacrifice a treasure, you are going to be draining an opponent for 1. And of course, if opponents are sacrificing things too, or losing their artifacts, that happens as well. So this can just drain opponents an absurd amount throughout the game. And yeah, basically, again, you're in pain, right, every single time that this commander triggers. But now you're just having your opponent sharing the pain with you as well, so you can take players out quite quickly. But nowhere near as quickly as with Marionette Master. My goodness. A 1/3 Human Artificer with Fabricate 3, so essentially you can make 3 servos, or more likely, put 3 counters on this. When your artifact you control is put in a graveyard from the battlefield, target opponent loses life equal to this creature's power. So essentially, yeah, that's going to be 4, because again, typically you're going to fabricate to get 3 counters on this. You'll have 4 power, and then you're going to be like, okay, I sacrifice a treasure, drain you 4, sacrifice another treasure, drain you 4. This can be a very, very good way to take players out, and one that you can kind of like usually just hold over your opponent's heads and be like, don't do that, or I'll take you out, because I've got enough treasures right now to just sacrifice them to drain you for your entire life. So there you go. Yeah, and of course, if you can increase this power, that can get even more absurd. Moving on, Helm of Awakening. This is a card that is kind of, I wouldn't say group huggy. It's typically used in like artifact shenanigan decks, artifact storm, that kind of thing. But you can also use it in a group huggy-ish way. Spells cost 1 to cast. This is low to the ground, it's an artifact, and it just allows everyone to cast more spells throughout the game. And so because of that, hey, you are encouraging actively. You're encouraging players to cast more spells, which is only going to benefit you because, hey, if players are casting 2 spells in a turn, you are getting, again, a treasure for life, but you are getting that treasure. So again, definitely keep something like this in mind. At the very least, yeah, it helps you cast more and more spells. Moving on. Debt to the Deathless. This one is huge in a deck like this. Again, you can generate a lot of mana with that glut of treasures you're going to be making. Each opponent loses 2 times X life. You gain life, your life lost this way. That is an absurd amount. I mean, let's just say even at a base level, let's say you put 10 mana. I mean, X equals 6, okay? Let's just put 10 mana in total, all right? That is going to be what each opponent drained for 6. You gain 18. That is, I mean, just saying that nothing else happens, right? Which it will. But let's just say that that is like 18 more potential treasures that you can get without them worry about it. That being said, of course, the potential to put even more mana into this and to finish your opponents off. And I made a mathematical mistake. It's early in the morning, okay? It'd be 36 life. You'd be draining opponents for 12 because, again, it's 2 times X life. There you go. So yeah, a lot more. Again, the potential to take all players out with this is quite great. Yeah, goodness gracious, it's early. Forgive me for making a mistake. I'm sorry. Comment below on how I made a mistake. Next up, Life Insurance. This is a really cool card, and it works kind of similarly-ish to this commander, so it kind of pairs very well with it. An enchantment for 3 white black. It says, whenever a non-token creature dies, you lose 1 life, create treasure token. So again, this one makes you lose life and create treasure tokens in a different way. Again, whenever non-token creatures die, like your commander, it's not just applying to you, it applies to everyone. Again, it applies to every single non-token creature. So you're going to be making a lot of treasures with this. You'll lose a lot of life too, but you can also get that back because this has extort. So whenever you cast a spell, you can pay ores off. If you do, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain that much life. Again, if you have 3 opponents still, you're going to be gaining 3 life every single time you extort a spell. That's going to be well worth it. And again, that's more treasures that you can make or without, taking yourself out, essentially. Moving on, Soul Conduit. Like I mentioned, there are life shenanigans to be had with a commander like this, and I absolutely love life shenanigans. One of my first decks was Selenia Dark Angel. Love that life shenanigan. Soul Conduit, an artifact for 6. Pay 6, tap 2 target players, exchange life totals. This one is hilarious because, again, you're going to be just taking all of this life loss and be like, oh no, woe is me, I'm down to 5. Oh dear, I have all this mana, but I'm down to 5. What is life? And then you're like, oh, that's life. Okay, you got 40 life over there. Let's swap life totals. Yeah, and again, this is a repeatable effect that you can say, okay, now I'm back to 40. You're down to 5. All right, let's take you out. Okay, you're gone. Hey, other opponents, how's it going? Cool. Oh, you have a lot of life too? Awesome. Well, I'm going to keep losing my life, and eventually I'm going to use this again. So yeah, it can be a very, very fun effect and one that can really stop opponents in their tracks. And again, this is the one where it's like, it can be pretty threatening when it comes out, and your opponents might try to deal with it, but also, hey, you're probably going to have enough mana to actually activate this. This doesn't have to be at, sorcery speed. So that can be quite great. Moving on, one that is a sorcery that is hilarious, though, is Reverse the Sands. A sorcery for 8 mana, but again, mana is nothing to this kind of a commander. Redistribute any number of players' life totals. Each of those players gets 1 life total back. Basically, you are going to be, hey, you know what? Who's my buddies? Who's my buddies at the table? Are you my friend? Are you my friend? Who's at the lowest? Okay, well, who do I not like the most in this situation? That player. Okay, you take that life total. I'll take the highest, of course, and then you just change them around. So basically, this is kind of like perfect life stacking and saying, yeah, things are going to be exactly how I want them to be. And then, yeah, you could just say, you know what? I would rather just have a lot of life. Yeah, so here you go. In a different way. Revenge, double target, double your life total. Target opponent loses half their life, rounded up. So this one essentially is like, you know what? I'm at 40 right now. I'd like to get even higher than that so I can just kind of pad my life total. Let's go up to 80. You go down to 20 or whatever, again, the double and whatever the half is. For again, just 6 mana, that's pretty incredible. And the other side, actually, of this is Revival, which actually does apply in this deck. Return target creature card from converted mana cost 3 less from your graveyard to the battlefield. That can be a key creature. That could be potentially your commander if you're that risky where you're like, yeah, let's put the commander in the... I guess it doesn't really that big of a risk because someone exiles your graveyard. It's like, okay, my commander goes back to command zone. Could be a way to get around commander attacks if you really need to, if your commander's been dealt with quite a few times. And then finally with these, Profane Transfusion. This one's 9 mana. Again, life is nothing. Life is nothing. Mana is nothing to this kind of commander. Life is nothing to it as well. They swaps. Target player, two target players exchange life totals. You create an XX colors horror artifact creature token. For X the difference between those players' life totals. Again, you're like, hey, you know what? You're at 40, I'm at 5, let's swap. I'll make a giant, massive creature as well that can just decimate people. And yeah, again, most importantly, I swapped my life, and now I'm back up, and I'm fine. And also, this one can be very political, because it says 2 target players. It doesn't have to be you. It does not have to be you. So, again, you could just say, you know, you two swap. Next up, Village Rites, the final budget buy I'm going to bring up. There's a lot of cards like this, and yeah, they can be fantastic in this kind of a deck. This cost cast spell, sacrifice a creature, draw 2 cards for a single mana. Okay, so basically, if you got some creature fodder lying around, great. Utilize this instant speed, draw some cards, refill your hand. And again, like these kind of like cantrippy effects or like cantrip plus effects, like this one where you actually net more cards than you're using, are incredible this kind of a commander because again, hey, you're going to want to cast multiple spells in a turn, not just your own, on your opponent's turns as well to make more and more treasures. So there you go, yet another way to do it. Again, instant speed cantrips can be incredible for a deck like this. Speaking of incredible, though, let's move on to the pricier picks. Again, cards outside of my budget. There is, of course, one that came to my mind immediately, and, yeah, it's quite expensive, unfortunately. Anointed Procession. Yes, anytime you're talking about token decks, anytime you're talking about creature token decks, treasure decks, food decks, whatever it is, hey, Anointed Procession, Doubling Season, these kinds of cards are amazing. Now, obviously, you don't have access to Doubling Season or Urza, but you have access to this one. If in fact, create 1 or more tokens under your control, create twice the many tokens instead. Again, this applies to any kind of token, not just creature, so double up all your treasures. Now, again, when someone casts their second spell in a turn, you lose 1 life and you're getting 2 treasures. So again, you're basically kind of like doubling up the efficiency, which is absurd. It is crazy. You can just get out of control in no time with the amount of treasures you can make with this. Moving on. Speaking of that, Mondrak. Yeah, mono white. Got another version of this, essentially. 4/4 for Phyrexian Horror, which says if 1 or more tokens that we create in our control, twice the many of those tokens are created instead. So again, basically just Anointed Procession. On top of that, this can protect itself. Pay 1 Phyrexian White, sacrifice 2 other artifacts and or creatures, put an indestructible counter on this. It's going to be well worth protecting this, even if it costs you 3 treasures to sacrifice, or sorry, 2, only 2. Then, hey, yeah, protect this. Get it indestructible. Keep it in play. And double up all your tokens. And when it comes to getting more and more tokens, well, I really wish Academy Manufacturer was more budget-friendly because I love this card. It's a 1/3 assembly worker. If you create a clue, food, or treasure token, instead create 1 of each. So now, instead of just getting a treasure every single time that happens, again, every single time a player casts second spell, you also get a food, which can gain you some life, and that's nice. You know, also that can really play well with, you know, Marionette Master and those. And also, hey, a clue, which can give you card advantage too. So getting more and more value out of every single instance of treasure making, yeah, that can get out of hand. Also, hey, Monologue Tax, the card that this commander probably was based off of. Whenever opponent casts their second spell each turn, you create treasure token. Basically, I mean, very similar to Commander, except it doesn't actually apply to you. So keep that in mind. And there is no life loss with this. So yeah, it's just another nice additional thing to have in play to say, hey, if opponents cast 2 spells in a turn, I'm going to get even more value out of this. And of course, if you got Academy Manufacturer in play, if you've got Mondrak, if you've got Anointed Procession, even more value. So yeah, this can get out of control. And you know I had to mention this one. Yep, Smothering Tide is one of the most played cards in Commander for a reason. It's annoying, it's obnoxious, it's terribly good. In a chain that says whenever an opponent draws a card, that player may pay 2. Player doesn't, you create a treasure. This is annoying. It is a taxing effect that is really hard to keep up with. Yeah, 2 is a ton of mana to pay every single draw. And yeah, players like to draw cards in Commander, not just their draw steps. So you're going to be getting a lot of treasure from this, an absurd amount of treasure. So, if this isn't dealt with, you probably just win with all the value that you can get, especially if you have other things in play. Anyway, Smothering Tithe, what a fun card. Moving on, Nadir's Nightblade. This one is, unfortunately not budget. It's an uncommon. Wizards reprinted, please. Whenever a token you control leaves the battlefield, just lose 1 life and you gain 1 life. This one says, hey, you know that life I've been losing? I want to share that with you. With, you know, that life I'm losing for my commander. Oh, wait. Oh, but I get the life back because you gain a life. So, yeah, again, kind of like Mirrodite Master, kind of like Disciple of the Vault, almost tripped on that name. This can punish your opponents for you sacrificing your tokens, which are your treasures, obviously, and maybe other tokens too. But yeah, being able to drain your opponents, get your life back from that, this can get out of hand, and it's a fantastic card for a deck like this. One that is quite funny is Vilspoker of Blood. I love this card. This card is really cool, and yeah, like I said earlier, you're going to be losing a lot of life, and that's fine. And with Villas, whenever you lose life, you draw that many cards. And you can also pay 2 life and black mana to make target creature get -1/-1. Cool. If you actually want to just force yourself to lose life to draw cards, great. But again, in combination with your commander, this is whenever a player casts their second spell each turn, you lose 1 life, you draw a card, and you make a treasure token. That is an absurd amount of value. So have fun with that. Also fun, hey, life swap. You also get some more, you know, cards, access to more cards, access to mortality. I can't believe you're not budget anymore. Again, that entire Selenia deck that I built a long time ago was built completely around you because I love this card. Beginning of your upkeep, you may have 2 target players exchange life totals. This is fun. Your opponents have to deal with it. If they don't, they're not going to be able to stop you because, yeah, I mean, I guess they could, you know, alpha strike you and take you out. But hey, more likely you're just going to be like, yeah, let's just not let that happen, and I'm just going to keep swapping with the highest life total and then taking out the players who are low. So, yeah. And then this one is hilarious. I love this card. Repay in Kind. Brutal. I love it. Again, this is not life swap. This is like life punish. Each player's life total becomes the lowest life total among all players. This is a great finisher for you. This is like, oh no, I'm down to 5. Woe is me. Oh no. Okay, well, now everyone's down to 5. Okay, now I'll just drain you off my, you know, cards. I got Nadir's Nightblade of Life Cell. Let's just drain you. Sacrifice 5 artifacts. You lose! Ha 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 ha! Yeah, this is a hilarious card. This card is incredibly good. And yeah, of course, you're in Orzhov, you got access to some great tutors. Go get the right card for the situation that you're in. Again, whether that's kind of building your board set, whether that is getting other effects, whether that's saying, I want to swap life totals right now. And again, you're going to have enough treasures to be like, I can do all this in the same turn. I can tutor for the card. I can cast the card. Fun times are had by all. So yeah, I think this is a very interesting commander. Again, kind of interesting to see a playoff of like monologue tax, but like a slight punishing effect, but also, well, in the command zone, and also, you know, whenever you're casting spells too, it's a lot of really interesting things that you can do with this one. I'm excited to see what people do with it and, you know, what kind of decks get built around it, and also what kind of decks utilize it in 99. So yeah, let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on this one. Make sure you check out that card list link and consider picking up some of those cards if you're interested in this commander. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.